episode, I'm going to teach you to turn your orange craft store pumpkins into these upgraded DIY pumpkins. Okay, so we'll just start with our store-bought orange pumpkin. I usually buy these after the season when they're on clearance. You can get them in all kinds of crazy colors, purple, everything. This one's not too bad, but we're going to upgrade it with our DIY paint. We're going to use Apothecary. Using our Paint Pixie brush. I love this brush for painting pumpkins because it gets down into the groove. This is the French round. It works really well. I've used the Skeleton Key and all of the White's Vintage Linen White Swan to do these pumpkins. They look great in the boho blue, mint chip. I just love when you put them all together. Prairie gray. So we give it all one quick coat, covering all of the areas, making sure we use the tip of the brush to get down into the groove, the sections of the pumpkins. Covering the entire thing, coming in and touching up at our stem. Just give it one good coat. We'll let that dry. Good. Now we've had 2 coats of paint, and we're going to add the shadowing that makes our pumpkin look realistic. So using our Dark and Decrepit from DIY, and my container is pretty dark and decrepit. It's a stain and sealer in one. We're just going to use it here and start to dab it in around the base of that stem. Just dabbing and creating a puddle of the Dark and Decrepit in that hollow area. And then I'm going to grab my spray bottle and give it a good spritz. And just allow that color to well up around the stem. And then I'll take the tip of my brush and I'll just drag that color down each section of the pumpkin along the groove. Working to get underneath of that stem. Good, then from here I'll just tip the pumpkin a little bit and that puddle will just run down that groove. Good, then we'll just let that dry. Feather out just a little bit more, making that line softer. And now we'll just leave that to dry. Good, now our Dark and Decrepit has dried, and we're going to add our weathered wood to the stem of our pumpkin to give it a more realistic look. This stem isn't so bad, but some of the pumpkins have a really fake looking stem in green and different colors, so I found the weathered wood is the perfect color to do pumpkin stems. If you saw the last video, that's what I said when we painted our perfect pumpkins. It makes the perfect weathered wood look. So just give it all a good coat. And then we'll just let that dry. Once that dries, we're going to come in with a little faded burlap and dry brush. So dry brushing, you just put a little bit of paint on your brush and wipe most of it off, and that paint will stick to the raised areas on that stem. And it just gives it a much more realistic look. Especially get down by where the pumpkin stem and the pumpkin meet. and also on the end of the stem where it would have been cut off the vine. Perfect. Good, let that dry. Now we're going to come in with our DIY white wax. Just get a little wax on that brush, wipe a little bit off. We're going to wax the entire pumpkin. I don't know if you've seen those great pumpkins that are out in all the pumpkin stands now, but they all have that kind of white, well, it looks like our white wax look on it. So that's what we're doing here. We're just going to rub that white wax all over. It's a little darker on the raised sections. And then just kind of push it down into the groove. So just waxing the entire pumpkin. Really work at pushing that wax down in there. Our wax is so smooth, it's very easy to apply. I love this DIY wax. Good, now we've let the wax sit. I'll let it sit very long, maybe about 20 minutes or so, and then wipe it back off, allowing the wax to stay down into the crevices heavier, and then wiped off on the raised parts. And it looks just like the realistic pumpkin. There you have it, upgraded craft store pumpkin using DIY paint by Tammy Rudisill Studio.